Welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at how to color silicone and silicone coloring techniques. Before we jump into the detail, let's have a look to see who this video is for. Now, if you're designing components from silicone, you should understand the different methods of how to color silicone and what the color options are available. So there are different types of silicone, or certainly it depends upon the state of the silicone. So there are different states or manufacturing processes to create silicone, and it depends on which state the silicone is in will determine how it is colored. Now, the three states that we're going to be looking at in this video is liquid silicone rubber, a silicone rubber which is in the semi-solid state for compression molding, and final molded production parts. So let's kick off with coloring a liquid silicone rubber. Now, liquid silicone rubber is a two-part thermoset elastomer that is injected into a mold to produce production parts. Prior to injection, the two parts are thoroughly mixed in a mixing chamber. Now, for coloring silicone in this state, it is probably the easiest of the coloring processes, as the color, or pigment as it is known, is added to the two-part mixing chamber prior to injection to create a pre-mixed, consistent colored silicone. Now, this is a fully automated process which provides consistent results. You can see a pictorial of the two-part silicone here. You can see the part A and the part B. That is being fed into the mixing chamber, where the color pigment is also added to that mixing chamber. In this case, we are showing blue and red with a mix of purple. So from the mixing chamber, that is fed into the screw and barrel, which is then injected into the mold to produce the final part of the consistent final color required. Now, by mixing color pigments, silicone parts can be produced in any color imaginable, including iridescent, pearl effects, and fluorescence. Now, silicone pigment is a highly concentrated liquid coloring and is carefully controlled with respect to the ratio added to the silicone mix. Due to the high concentration, the amount added is very small, normally around 0.5% of the total silicone mixed weight. Now let's move on to the next state, which is the compression molded or the semi-solid silicone rubber. Now, silicone that is in the semi-solid state, ready for compression molding, is a soft compliant material that is an off-white translucent color. In order to transform this raw silicone material into a color ready for production, color pigment needs to be added and the raw material needs to be processed through a 2mm roller system. This process is very labor intensive and can be subject to potential contamination. The color pigment added needs to be weighed accurately, as it is a highly concentrated paste in this case, and if too much is added, it will affect the curing properties of the silicone during the compression molding stage. Here we've got a short video of the process. I'm just going to play this and walk through what's happening in the video. So we can see this is the raw material before any pigment is added, and this is just being processed through the roller system. We can see the color is being very accurately weighed in order to get the correct color requirement for production. Once that is done, in this case what they're doing is adding it to a smaller amount of the silicone in order to make a premix. That is then added to the master batch, or the master batch is the black, and that is now added to the final amount of silicone required for production. This is continually rolled until we have a consistent, in this case, black material. Now let's have a look at colouring finished production parts. Here we're going to be talking about painting silicone parts. Now some say that painting silicone parts is impossible. However, this is not the case, and we will show you how to paint silicone parts in the next few slides. One point to note before we dive into this: there is a very specific process and materials needed for this method of colouring silicone to be successful. Now, predominantly, if you are looking to paint a silicone product, you're looking for very specific and finite details that cannot be moulded into a single colour as described in the previous two colouring methods. Painting of silicone products is generally done in both the special effects creations industry and with the use of prosthetic limbs where skin tones and other special requirements are needed. In this case, the base silicone is generally a platinum cure silicone that is approved by the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, that can be used in contact with food, skin, and meets other health and safety measures. Now, medical grade silicone, such as those used in special effects and prosthetic limbs, are all platinum based silicones. So now we've established the base silicone is a platinum based silicone, we can now identify that the paint used for these applications is also a platinum based silicone paint. The paint itself is a two-part translucent clear platinum cure silicone that is used as a base for the colour pigment. Start by mixing the two parts A and B of the liquid silicone. These should be measured to be the same quantity, in other words, equal parts of part A and part B. Now the colour pigment is added by a weight ratio as with the previous two methods of colouring. In this case, add between 2% and 5% of the total A plus B mixed weight depending upon the shade and the amount of translucent effect you desire. Now, once the colour pigment has been added and mixed to the AB mixture, a solvent thinner is required in order to make the mixture a low enough viscosity for either paintbrush application or with the use of an airbrush gun. In the case of an airbrush gun application, more solvent is required. A 0 VOC, or volatile organic compounds, is recommended. Let's have a look at the process of applying this. Now, before applying any paint to the silicone part, it is imperative that the surface is oil and dust free. This is best achieved by cleaning the surface with the same solvent used for the paint mixture. Once the part is ready for paint application, either paint or spray the initial coat of paint onto the surface of the part in the desired areas. For best results, pat down the wet paint to remove excess puddles or drips of paint. Next, you can cure this layer of paint with a heat gun. Make sure the paint is dry before applying the next layer of silicone paint. Now, the idea behind this method of painting is to add individual layers of colour, building up a three-dimensional colour on the surface of the silicone paint. Let's have a look at a few examples of the before and after. Now, this is just a silicone face mask or face model or a head model, and you can see on the left hand side without any paint application, and the final result on the right hand side with multiple layers added to this to create this effect of the human skin. Let's have another look at the finished article, or before and after. Here on the left again we can see the raw material and the finished article on the right hand side. Again, this has been painted and has multiple layers each layer being dried before the application of the next layer. Let's have a look at one more set of examples. You can see this is very much a special effects set of examples where a lot of details or hand painting is required and multiple layers of the silicone colouring is added here. Now let's have a look at a summary of how to colour silicone. Remember, there are 3 states in which silicone can be coloured. Liquid, and this is known as a liquid silicone rubber. The colour pigment in this case is added in concentrated liquid form into the mixing chamber prior to injection into a mould. Remember, this can only be a solid or a single colour. 2. Semi-solid state, and this is a slab of silicone that has colour pigment added and processed through a 2mm roller system until all the colour pigment is evenly amalgamated and evenly mixed. And 3. Finished moulded parts. Here the colour is painted on in the form of silicone paint via a paintbrush or airbrush gun. To understand what products Sofeast are experts in, you can visit our learning centre and search for this page. Thanks for listening. My name is Paul Adams from Sofeast, and I shall see you in the next video.